Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC, and it is all filled with all sorts of enigmatic wisdom and advice, or just ways of rethinking about our situations, be able to live a more reasonable life. It has different perspectives for us to explore. It consists of 81 chapters or verses. I call them forms, 81 forms of just, and each one is worded so that it's broad. It can be viewed from a very varied way of looking at it. Just looking at number 1, which I suppose we'll just start reading number 1 today. The title of number 1 is Expressing Tao. And so when we just look at the title, it seems that we're going to talk about how to express Tao. How do we talk about Tao? How do we express anything about Tao? Well, it starts by saying words are particular; they cannot express Tao. To have a name is to be limited to manifestation. That which is nameless is the source of manifestation. Self-referential, those who name themselves. Want to experience the depth of the mystery? Stop identifying. Want to experience the shallowness of manifestation? Differentiate. Either way, no one can tell. The difference is in your experience. Okay, so that's the first form of the Tao Te Ching. And I'm just gonna, unless somebody wants to join me, and on this program, what I do is I invite you up, we'll chat a little bit, get a baseline, and then I'll ask you to pick a number. I have a random number generator you can select as well. And then we'll go through that Tao, and that'll be your Tao for the day. But coming from here, I'm just looking at number 1 today for myself and for anybody listening that wants to go through this with me. My computer turned off, so I got to turn it back on really quick. So I'm pausing for time. Words are particular; they cannot express Tao. Oh, JK's going to join me. Hey, Jackie, how are you? Are you with me? Uh-oh. No, you're not. I don't know if you got kicked out. You can come back if you want. So words are particular. They cannot express Tao. This is the line that really sold me, I guess, on what the Tao is and what the Tao Te Ching has to say. Words are particular. They cannot express Tao. So what that is saying is that you can't talk about Tao. Hey, JK, how are you?
How are you?
I'm good. You dropped off. Was that just a glitch?
Yeah, no. I was putting the dog back, and it connects to my Wi-Fi, and then that was that.
Yeah, I when I'm on phone calls and I get near my house, it's like
Exactly.
How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well as well.
Life
is easy. Yeah,
life is easy. We can go through one. If not, I can talk about something.
Talk to me.
So when it was interesting yesterday when I was talking about, when we were talking, some of the stuff that stood out to me, and it was interesting, for me because there is a particular relationship that I have in my life that, as I become more me, it feels like we separate more.
Yeah.
And I don't like to assume. So I've been sitting and waiting and just seeing. Let's just see how it plays out. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do me and let that other person do them. And, when I got up this morning, and bear with me because I'm still working through it, but when I got up this morning and I was kind of journaling and thinking about it, really that idea of the conditional love, you only want me because of whatever. And where, in my life, I know there's a lot of transactional relationships that I have that I'm working on if I choose to go that route, the ones that are meaningful to me. But I felt that in a different way, that idea of diminishing. Here's one person saying, hey, I love you very deeply. And then you have another person saying, well, no, this is how you feel about me. And that kind of struck me in a certain way. And I said, where am I doing that? Am I doing this to this person? Is this why I feel so separated? And I started really looking at that a little bit deeper because it happens, right? We do that. And I'm glad, for me now looking at some of this stuff, I'm really glad that I can be still in those moments because once you say something like that,
you can't unring a bell.
Yes. And you set something into motion and it's not, it might not change. It's going to change. Something's going to change. It might not change that you care about that person or, that might, if you really love somebody, you're going to love them regardless. But how you interact with that person is obviously going to change. Because if you really love yourself, you're not going to submit to that.
Correct.
And I think, I started really looking at that, where am I doing this? Where am I still feeling I'm not enough? That one of the, that I don't love myself, that I don't feel like this new me is worthy of that other person, if that's the case. However, as one of the things I really like that you say, is I believe everything. And why not? Why can't, in this scenario, I just believe that this person loves me? Why can't I just believe that regardless of how I show up, that this person loves me?
Right.
And exploring that. Now, I don't know if that's the case. Maybe they can't. And maybe this is all going to end, but it was definitely something that I'm looking at because I want to make sure that that's not something that, there's something in me that I'm saying, hey, I feel like you don't like me for a reason. And that reason is something I need to resolve myself. So that's kind of where that train of thought was coming.
So that's that comes down to the, so it's an imbalance in, our experience. So when we wake up and we wake up to the world around us and we wake up to the manifestation, we live in manifestation for, let's say, 16 hours a day. I'm sure, most people live in a little bit more than that, but 16 hours, let's say. And then you sleep for 8. So 2/3 of your life, you are living totally in the manifestation, totally in this world of matter. And when you have an experience with another person, you experience that person as doing something. Like, that person loves me. That person doesn't like me. That person is yelling at me. That person is... And then all of the work that we do here on Tao of the Day and stuff, and the work that we've done is all about, like, well, I'm having the experience of this happening. So that takes me out of the manifestation a bit, right? This takes me out of, like, oh, yes, they love me transactionally. They love me because I am this thing. However, just like what you're doing, you kind of go in and you say, okay, well, where is this happening with me? Maybe they're loving you transactionally because you have a love for yourself that's transactional, right? Like, so if that, and then, and so, yes.
Maybe they're not, but it was just the idea that it kind of,
you're
something
perceiving. Right. You're
Yeah.
perceiving them loving you transactionally because you need to learn about transactional love within your life.
Yeah. And I think I need to, yeah. And that's, yeah, when I was perceiving your situation and then seeing how it applied. And it might not be the case. I don't know, like, but
Yeah.
I thought it was worth looking at. It wasn't something that I was triggered by, but
Right, right,
I
right, right.
heard you say it multiple times and I was like, why is that? And maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it was just that repetition in my head. And, you carry something from a conversation. Why out of all the,
All the things.
yeah, did that
Yeah.
stick with me? So it just triggered this idea for sure about, hey, you know what, let's just look at this. Let's be
That's
sure
good.
that you feel, that you are, this is not standing out to you for this reason, because
Right.
this is something that I know I'm aware is kind of in my peripheral. I'm sitting
Yeah.
there, I'm like, yeah, I know it's out there. I haven't dealt with it yet. And we'll see, and
Right.
just not really. But it was just interesting that stood out to me because I felt bad about that. I was like, that's kind of sad. You might not be sad about it, but I thought about it and I was like, why do you feel sad? Why does that make you sad?
Right. Right.
So,
Like, and that's a thing, like, and being able to constantly, because it's so easy in the manifestation to be the victim of somebody else's actions or words or whatever. But then it's like, oh, well, what is this? Like, where is this taking me? And why am I thinking about it in these terms? Or why am I doing this? And all of that, because we have to be open to being wrong.
yeah.
Because if we think we're right, we're closing ourselves off to everyone and everything else. So we have to be open to being wrong and then accepting and growing and learning from just considering if we're wrong. We don't have to come up with the conclusion that, yes, we were wrong, because there is no wrong and there's
Yeah.
no
Just
right.
believe everything.
Right.
And
then
let's see
just
where it goes.
let's see where it goes. So let's go ahead and pick a number.
So I actually picked 72, I think. Well,
With
then I
nothing
did
to
just
teach.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
think that
sure
was
did.
it.
With nothing to teach. So with nothing to teach is interesting, because I always look at everything from this perspective of, well, it's about learning. It's about kind of like observing and not having to, not having to have anything to learn or anything to teach, but you are in this moment. You don't have to carry the last moment with you. You don't have to carry what you said yesterday with you today.
Yeah.
And, I've experienced that recently a couple times where it was like, I was literally fresh. I just did something and I was fresh in the next moment because I wasn't carrying that which I just finished with me. And it's like, your day can almost go on forever because you don't carry the last moment with you.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, it is. So this says, the knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained. Losing themselves in that process, they turn to more knowledgeable authorities. Do not make light of what is important to people, and they will respect you. Therefore, the master, although she knows herself, she is not arrogant. She loves herself as she is, but she also loves others as they are. She has nothing to teach, and the knowledgeable have nothing to learn.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, I don't have anything to teach or prove about this new version of me, and
Right.
I think that comes up for me still, and I'm aware of it, but maybe not aware of it in this context.
In what
And
context?
no, in the context of this relationship.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I'm just not as attuned to when I'm having those feelings that I feel like I have to be something else, and kind of being too rigid in the fact that I'm just not going to be that anymore,
Right. Yeah.
and seeing that, because there's a lot of things that I have changed because I realized I didn't like that I was doing those things.
Right.
Um, stupid stuff like you have this schedule. I'm not going to wait up all night for you, you know, to call me or so that we can engage. I'm going to go
Right.
to bed when I want to go to bed because that works for me.
Right.
And, maybe as I'm talking about this, I'm not seeing, there's an expectation that they're going to adjust to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not going to adjust, that's okay. you know,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
have to, and I didn't think about that, but I'm wondering if that's where it kind of is, that I had an expectation that they needed to, that they were going to adjust to
Right. You're
me.
like, I'm not going to adjust, but whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, why
Yeah,
should they?
but very subtly. You know
Yeah,
what I
of
mean? It
course.
wasn't
Yeah.
anything that was like, because I can identify when have expectations,
Yeah.
but I think on some level, somewhere inside me, that I was expecting there to be a change and for there to be an embrace,
Yeah.
and
We want, it's hard who knows what this coming, we want credit for growing.
yeah,
We want to watch people around us grow, but in our growing, we're going to be challenged, especially when we want to prove that we've grown.
yeah, and it's not so much that I want to prove that I've grown. I want to know. I want to know something. I want to know if you're going to love this version of me or not. I want to know that. And I know I want to know that,
Yeah.
because if it's not going to work out, we got to go and, I got other stuff to do. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a very rigid stance. That's
Yeah.
me
That's
planting my feet very
right.
firmly in
That's
the
you.
ground.
Yeah.
And I wasn't seeing that actually until just about now.
Right.
And trying to teach, right? I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
teach you that, hey, I'm worthy of
I'm new.
this.
Yeah. As
Yeah,
are they.
exactly. And
Just as
allowing
they are.
them,
They don't have to they don't have to wake up to the fact that they're worthy of it. You
no,
did. Good for
yeah,
you. But
exactly.
they don't have to wake up to the fact that they're worthy of this and or even that you are.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
They love you, and so hopefully they know that you're worthy of love and all of that. But they might not even know what love is.
And that's the hard part when you're interacting, when you're interacting with people that aren't on this journey, and how that looks. I'm going to drop off.
Well, yeah. I got Melissa in, but come back and we'll wrap this up. So yes, that is difficult. It's hard to get other people to because it takes a lot of like you've learned so much about how the universe works and how you're being held and how everything's okay. They don't know that.
Yeah.
They're still living, and as are you. You don't know right now if this relationship is going to be okay, and
Nope.
and you're looking to prove that it is going to be.
Yep.
And you're looking to prove that it is, and because you're looking to prove, you might be wanting them to prove themselves or wanting them to show you something, and that's your lesson, right? That's what you like. Therefore, the master, although she knows herself, she is not arrogant. And
Yeah.
if we start to, go on.
No, I think the thing is too that it's not, I don't want them to prove, I just want to know that information. And
Yeah,
I forgot what
that,
I was going to say. So you keep talking
that's
about arrogance.
so. That's knowing that information, wanting to know that information. That's the thing you'll never do.
Yep.
You'll never know that information.
And I have to just be able to accept it. And I need to be able, that's the point though, right? Because you're not going to be you can't have everybody in your life that is going to be on a journey with you. And
No,
that's part of your journey. That's
right.
part of mine. This is part of I need to have this relationship because I need to
Absolutely.
be able to have these interactions and love myself so much that it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I can still love you even if we're not together. I can still love you that it's
Absolutely.
going to be okay, because I think that's part of it too. Is it going to be okay if this is not going to work?
Yeah.
And I don't
And,
know, and I think
well,
I have to be okay with that.
right. And that's the thing. Like there has to be, like you're moving into a direction where you're learning that you're being held and you're learning that things are as they are. And then you might be moving away from old relationships, but they might be coming with judgments, with old judgments. They might be coming with old assumptions. They might be coming with new arrogance. That might be, and looking at your situation. And yes, that doesn't mean that you have to keep the old relationships that you had, but there's no guarantee that, and there's no right answer, right? Like
Yeah.
the structure of the old relationship that you had has to maybe be dismantled, but that doesn't mean that the relationship and the love between you two needs to be dismantled, needs to change, or the legal status needs to change. All of that doesn't matter as much as, this is all about like weaponizing things. It's just like, well, if you don't do what I want, if you don't make it the way I want, I'm going to weaponize something. And then when we talk about like weaponizing, we talk about like, that's the first state of your mourning, right? That's the first state of you regretting that you had to lift a weapon, but you're not being forced to do that.
And
I
that
mean,
was,
you may be forced to do that at some point. I mean, it doesn't sound like that's the state that you're in now. It might be. I mean, it doesn't sound
and
that way. But
the funny part of it is that, and I'm sorry, Melissa, and I'll shut up in a minute. The
mm-mm.
funny part about this is that yesterday when I was with my little guy, and he's been doing that a lot, and that might just be part of his age, but
Doing what a
it
lot?
um, sorry, I told you, thank you for bearing with me. Doing this if then, right? If you don't, then I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Um, And I've been hearing that from him a lot, and it stood out to me yesterday. And my response was, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And when I said that, he goes, it was basically, if you don't get me ice cream or whatever it was that he wanted, then I'm never going to the store with you again. And I said, well, okay. And he goes, well, I want to go to the store with you. And I said, okay.
Okay.
And that's all I kept saying. And he was like, okay, at the end of it. But it was funny because when he said that, I said, when did you start saying these if thens a lot? And then
Yeah.
I knew that it was standing out to me. So when you just said that, I knew it was something I had to look at, and actually is what I wrote in my journal is about this love and where am I having a condition on the love
Right.
that I give and the
Mm-hmm.
love that I receive, how I
Yeah,
receive
absolutely.
that love, and not being open to how, I think it's more on the receiving end. I
Mm-hmm.
think that for me, like, yes, I love you no matter what, but am I able to receive your love no matter what?
Big
And that's
question.
always been, yeah, that one's always been tricky for me, is
Right.
receiving these things that I'm afraid of. Because
There's all sorts of conditions.
yeah. And I've always been afraid to receive love.
Mm-hmm.
That has been a thing for me. That's something that I didn't find words for a long time, but receiving has always been very difficult for me, which I'm sure you could have gathered from our interactions, but love specifically, because I loved so much and I was always afraid for anybody to know how much I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be more open to receiving that love, and being open to allowing them to see me in that
Right.
capacity. And that is something that I think is probably, I'll look at some more.
Like when you said okay, I love the okay response to everything. I mean, I say, oh, okay, good. Go, okay, good. Oh, I can, like this horrible thing. Oh, okay, good. Like,
Yep.
and it's like, oh, but, I don't know if I don't read much, but, I think I was either in an interview or in a book or whatever where I heard that Eckhart Tolle, which I'm not a super big fan of, but I mean, he's fine. He uses the term, "Is that so?" I think it was him, or he talked about someone that used the term, "Is that so?" Where it's like, he's like, I'm not gonna go to the store with you if you don't get me ice cream. Oh, is that so? And
Yeah.
then well, but I want to go to the store with you. Oh, is that so? And it's it's constantly like this idea of like, oh, is that so? And then you put it in the lap of the person who says these ultimatums, and you literally ask them, is that the way it actually is? And then they get to sit with it. They get to, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not what it actually is.
Hopefully they do, because you're giving them an opportunity to not ring the bell and really think, is this really what you want?
Right. Is
Because
this
if you
where you
don't,
want to plant your flag?
because people say a lot of shit
Yeah, they do.
and not thinking about it. And I do that. I say a lot of shit and don't think about it. And it's nice when somebody gives you that. That's a
Right.
gift.
I think
And a
so.
lot of times when you are being questioned, you take a very defensive stance. And
Right.
I've kind of stopped doing that because I look at it, just what we were talking about yesterday about, there's a gift there. Can you see the
Right.
gift? Or do
Yeah,
you see that somebody's shitting on you?
and that was the other thing I was going to mention. Life is a gift received from Tao.
Yeah.
Everything is supported, or everything is sustained in support of that gift. So the relationships that you have, and your son and your daughter and your house and the planes and all the people that you interact with and stuff, they're all being sustained. Their lives are being sustained in support of the gift of your life. Like the idea that this relationship is like, well, okay, you're looking at a thing, but this is part of the gift of your life. It all, and this is about you. And there is nothing in your world that is not you.
And that I look at it as a gift. I'm not, and that's why I was able to be still, because years ago, I probably wouldn't have taken that as stance. I would have got a feeling and been like, that's it, and I would
Right.
have rang the bell and just move forward. And I'm like, well, nah, maybe not. Like, how does this apply to me? How does this feeling, how can I reflect back on it?
Right.
And maybe it is what it is. And that's okay too.
And by
But
doing that, right, and by doing that, you're offering, because remember, all the people around you have the gift of life as well, and you are being sustained in support of their gift. So you doing your work is part of the gift of their lives.
yeah,
And so it's all intertwined.
it is.
And it is
There's
so
connectivity
beautifully
everywhere.
intertwined
It
everywhere.
is.
There is no, that's why it's common. Of course we don't recognize it. Of course we don't see how powerful it all is every moment, but it is. And
It's
there for
astonishing,
us.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is. It
astonishing
absolutely is.
because there's no coincidence. Like,
And
it's
it
hard to
doesn't,
rationalize that because it's just there. If you look, if you
right.
just look,
If you just
you can
open your
see it.
eyes to the awareness of being,
And
it's all right in
something
front of you.
we had that conversation about telescopes, right? About how we both did that
Oh,
telescope
yeah,
thing with
yeah,
our eyes. One of the things I said, and one of the things that came out of that conversation for me that we didn't talk about, was I had said that the eye doctor mentioned to me that I interpreted blur very well. And I remember feeling kind of proud in that moment when and obviously, if I
Yeah.
remember it from all the way back then, it was something that, and
Was
maybe
significant.
yeah, and maybe
Yeah.
he said it so I could realize this now. Like that kind of connection shit, like it kind of blows my mind. But
Yeah.
either way, right? That piece, when I said it to you, I kind of stopped and we continued the conversation, but in my head, like I was like, oh, and I kind of put that in my pocket for later. I was like, we're going to look at that because why did you feel bad for saying that? And I looked at it and it's because I don't believe that anymore. That is not, I don't interpret blur very well. I don't interpret anything very well. That word interpret, I shouldn't be, it's exactly what we were talking about, presupposing, right? We were talking about presupposing things, and that's a presupposing. And I said, you don't believe that anymore. And that's why it stuck out to me. And I went through the whole thing. Now I see blur and I love it for what it is. Blur is beautiful. I don't want to see anything more than blur. Like I just, and that is the shift. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, I can, why wouldn't I believe what the blur is telling me? Why am I not open to receiving that gift?
Right.
And so that was it's kind of funny. Even the conversations kind of connect. So interesting enough. So anyway.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Love
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye. We're going to bring Melissa up. Melissa, thank you for your patience. It's so wonderful to chat with my buddies. Hey.
Hey, Martin John.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I may have rung the bell.
Oh, that's always difficult. Yeah, right. You can't unring a bell.
You cannot unring a bell.
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. Yeah, no, that's okay. I know it. Like sometimes, you do things before you're ready, but they still happen, and you have to, deal with the consequences. Sometimes there. You don't have to, there may not be a lot of consequences, but, like at 6:00 in the morning or whatever, who knows? Like you don't know yet all the things that have taken place and all the things that are going on, but, there's stillness.
Yeah.
After action, comes stillness. So you rung the bell. Now you get to be still. And and you may, this is all about learning. This is all about understanding who you are and what your boundaries are and how you can learn from these things.
Well, and it's interesting that I needed to sit here and listen to what JK was saying, because even though the relationship she was referring to is totally different, it did seem to very much connect with what happened with me. And she was talking about, the relationship being transactional. And that's kind of where I was at. I'm not feeling great. And I was told that because I was sick, he wasn't going to spend time with me. And I was like, but you're the one that got me sick. And, I thought it was really messed up because, when he was sick, I went and I took him to the doctors. I got him medicine. I did that, and I didn't do it like expecting that he was going to do the same for me. But, now that I'm sick, it's like, oh, I can't see you. You're sick. But then on top of that, he's like, oh, but I'm going to come by and look at that car in your driveway and blah, blah. I'm like, so wait a second. You want me to stay in my house and like, you're going to come by and look at the car? Like, I thought that was really messed up, and it does seem very transactional to me. And I was sitting here thinking that, maybe he never really loved me. He loved what I did for him,
Well, that's how we're brought up. And so it's like he's innocent in his, he thinks he's doing the best for himself and the people around him. And again, he's in early recovery from what I know. And so like the idea of him being able to get outside of himself completely to love, he still doesn't love himself.
That's exactly what I just wrote in my journal. Maybe he doesn't know what love is.
Right. And what that does for you is opens up the door so that you can love him without having to be in a relationship with him, because that is that puts you at risk. Now, you can be in a relationship with him. That's all fine and good. However, it is all, it all revolves around the idea of, well, do you love yourself? Like, if this is transactional.
It's funny because yesterday, that's what I was writing about in my journal. The things that I do love about me, Martin John.
Yeah. And, remember, like, there's a big, from what we've talked about, like, there's a big transactional love for yourself that revolves around, the image of the librarian that we talked about and stuff, right? And it was like, if you're not this, then you're not, you don't deserve love. And there's all that judgment that comes with that, and those are the things that you get to look at. And regardless of Shane, if I'm assuming we're thinking about Shane.
Yep, that's who we're talking about.
So regardless of you being in a relationship with him, you're able to love yourself. And, I mean, we can kind of go into, there's plenty of fish in the sea and all of that kind of stuff. But like, really, it's just like, oh, like, if this is a line that you're drawing with him, is the same line being drawn with you? And that's the thing that that's the thing that we want to be able to look at, is to be like, well, are we consistent across the board? Or am I just expecting more from him than I expect from myself in terms of loving me and showing me love?
I was, and that's kind of where I was at yesterday. I'm like, I deserve love.
Absolutely.
And I deserve to be treated, and I don't want to get into like having expectations, and maybe, I don't know, maybe was I behaving in a transactional manner and, thinking that because I did say that to him. In fact, that was one of the last things that I said to him, is that, I think it's really messed up that, I was there for you when you're sick, but now that I'm sick, you can't have anything to do with me. And that was like the last thing that I said to him. And, I guess he didn't like that. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, he's perfectly within his right to not want to come by when you're sick. I mean, and you're perfectly within your right to not go by, or to go by when he's sick, or to do whatever you want. Like, those are perfectly reasonable things. Now, you don't have to be in a relationship with someone that doesn't do things that they do, but you want to love them for who they are. And who they are is someone who's like, I'm not going to come by when you're sick, but you can let me look at the car that's for sale or whatever next door. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that, because, like, if you're not going to bring me at least chicken noodle soup, you can go stuff it. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
and that's fine. There's nothing.
Right?
There is nothing.
That's kind of where I was. Like,
right, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely fine. And he doesn't have to like it. That's absolutely fine. But I know this is kind of, but I'm connected, right? I have physical, like, attachment. And that attachment does often get us in trouble, because we will concede ourselves for that attachment. We say, oh, well, I get this attachment. That's transaction. I get this attachment, so I'll give up this. That's transaction. And it's like, well, if the attachment isn't the thing that's important, then you don't get transaction. Then it's like, oh, I can love you for being this selfish, self-centered person. That's okay. I'm not going to be in a relationship with you when you're that way.
Yeah.
But either way, like, you're still a beautiful person, and I respect you, and I love you, and I can't be tied to that, because that's not good for me. That's all.
Yeah.
and it's not, like it's, and it's not because he is some way. It's because you are some way. It's because you love yourself more than that.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. It's not about him being a narcissist or whatever. It's like he can be a narcissist and you can still love him. Don't tie your cart to that horse.
No, but doesn't mean I want to be in a relationship with you. And maybe, that's what it was, to show me,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we were, so we've seen each other for a few months now, and maybe that was just God's way, the universe's way of showing me, what he thinks, and if that's the way that he thinks.
Well, it's not the way he thinks, right? Like you're only experiencing yourself. So you still have to, like, if you're witnessing in other people transactional relationships, you have to look at the transactions that you have in your life. And you have to look at the transactions that you have with yourself. And yes, he may think this and he may feel this and whatever, but you don't have to tie your cart to that horse. You just go move on. You have a cart. It's wheels. Mm-hmm. And you can, you just put a motor on it, and off you go. But it's not, again, you don't know what he thinks. You're only having an experience
based on what I think,
based on how you're perceiving this moment. He may have, have you ever had to call somebody and you just didn't want to do it? But it was like you knew etiquette was like you got to call them. And then you call them and it's fine, but it's like contentious and you're not really the best you that you can be. And you're only doing it out of etiquette and they're complaining or whatever. And you have to sit there and listen to them fucking do that. And that's the kind of thing that if he showed up at your place and did the etiquette, but was not present and was just going through the motions, that would tick you off even more.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, that's why we have to love people for the decisions that they make. Because when we force them to make a decision, we get that apathetic adherence. Yeah. They're coming by just because I'm sick. Is that what you want your relationship to be? Like, oh yeah, like when I'm sick, he comes by. When he does something wrong, he buys me flowers. When but you want that to come from him. You want that to come, and you want that to come
I want him
from
to come by because he wants to, not because I said he should, or because we had made plans to go out. That's what, I wanted it. Like, you
wanted him to just, step it up and bring food in.
Right.
You wanted him to step it up and do the thing that what you believe a good boyfriend would do.
Right. What I thought, a good boyfriend would be like.
And that's right. That's what you want. And he, whether he is incapable or unwilling to do those things, that doesn't matter. But you're having the experience that he doesn't love you or he doesn't love you in the way that you want him to. And so you look at your experience and stop blaming him for being who he is. Because if he wasn't who he is, he'd be adhering apathetically to the things that you want him to do. But it wouldn't be honest.
Right.
And my guess is you want honesty.
Absolutely.
And so you're going to have to be more honest in your life with yourself in terms of like, well, where are your transactions even for yourself? Like your transactions are like, well, you're deserving of love when you're this way. You're not deserving of love when you're this way. That's transactional.
So I don't understand what you mean by that, because I think I'm deserving of love all the time.
Good. Wonderful. But there are, I know in our conversations, we did discover that, like you were more worthy of love when you were closer to being a librarian, right? That ideal, like woman, that helpful, ideal person.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that I'm growing and changing, and I think that I deserve love all the time.
Right. And so this relationship started when you still had old ideas.
Yeah, that's true.
And you still have lingering things in your system. Like I still have lingering things in my system where I don't think I love myself for like I still judge myself.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I didn't love like that, I wasn't as nice as I could have been to that teacher at school. And, I do feel like yesterday, like, that I was standing up for myself, and I did like that because I'm worth standing up for.
That's that. And so now you're creating a whole new experience where you are standing up for yourself and you're doing more. And this has all come about over the last couple months. So it's all very new. And you're going to the universe is always going to reach back and say, I mean, did you ever hear my cigarette story? The one that I found, the cigarette, you're going to drop off. So come back up when you get, And then I got Julie in line. Did you ever hear my cigarette story where I got the cigarette from, I saw it in the road?
No, I never heard that story.
So I quit smoking, and I went to the gym one day, and I was having I had a craving for a cigarette. And it was like I hadn't smoked in years at this point. And then I was walking home, and on my way home, I saw a whole cigarette on the ground in the crack of a sidewalk, and it was clean and pristine. And I was like, and I just looked up to the heavens. I'm going to pick that
bitch up and smoke it.
And I just looked up to the heavens, and I was like, not today.
Oh, good for you.
And that's what this is. I think that when you get tempted to go back to your old life, when you get tempted to go back to be or believe or think about things from that perspective that you used to think about them, then that's what that is, So it's you're just getting coaxed back, and you say, no, not today. I'm not going to take this anymore. And so you rang the bell, and that's good. You can't unring that bell, but you can.
No, I can't unring the bell.
No, but there's nothing. But you don't want to.
But no, because I'll be okay. I was okay. Right. I was okay before I was in a relationship with him, so I'll be okay now.
Yeah. And yes, you're going to have to deal with other things, but those things will come up, and you'll deal with those things. Yeah. Like you may have to deal with, the fear, but like you love yourself more than you love yourself more than he loves you. I don't know how much he loves you, but let's just
obviously
you should, and you always should love yourself more than anybody else loves you.
Yeah.
So you still have more love, and you have more love to give. You have more love to receive. And if he's not telling you not to call Mojo, then you can share love with Mojo, and you can share love with me, and you can share love with other people, and you can share love, and that love doesn't have to be. Now, we do want physical touch and things like that. All of those sorts of things come in, but it's all.
I can get hugs from my kiddos.
Yeah, you got 300 in a day. Let's find a number.
17.
17. Of masters and leaders. What comes to mind here is
this damn leadership thing keeps coming up for me, Martin John.
I know.
What is this saying, man?
A leader is someone who has rules and structure and etiquette and all of those sorts of things. A master trusts the moment. A master trusts the journey. And although your journey is changing at this moment, although your journey is, going to be complex and going to be, all these sorts of things, you can trust the journey. And you don't have to dictate how other people are. And if they want to be as they are, well, that's perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly reasonable for him not to want to be around you when you're sick. Now, you can tell the story that that's not true, and you prove that that's not true because he made you sick because you took care of him. But if he were to take care of you, he wouldn't be taking care of you well because he'd be doing it with this apathetic adherence.
Right.
And it'd be like, you wouldn't want that anyway. And the thing that hurts is that you would really like a hand. You would really like somebody just to wash the dishes.
Right.
Because you're not feeling well. And the thing is you didn't have that before, and that was, quote unquote, like promised you in the idea of what a relationship is. And it's like, you've fallen short, So of masters and leaders. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Then those whom the people loved led the way. After having created the position, the people feared their leaders. Then they despised them. Having created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. Having become a leader, his trust in the people was diminished. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. She works day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all ourselves. And I'm sure Shane, after you helped him get better, he was like, oh, I'm finally better. I did such a good job at getting better. Because if he were to, my guess is that, I don't know if that's true, but because if he were to give you credit, he would be aware that it was a team effort.
No, he did. He did thank me for, taking him to the doctor and getting him medicine and, all the different things that I did for him. And that's why, it was such a bitter pill to swallow when he said, I'm not going to be able to see you. And I'm like, well, maybe we shouldn't see each other at all then,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that was a rigid stance, but it's like, if you can't love me when I'm sick, you can only love me when I'm not sick. Like what, no. You need to love me all the time, no matter how I feel. And I mean, for me, that's what love is. Love is supposed to be unconditional, not like, I can only love you when you're feeling good and everything's great. And, then we can go out. But if you're not feeling, no, even though, I jeopardized my health when he wasn't feeling well and took him to the doctors because I thought that's what a loving girlfriend does,
Yes,
and
yes.
you're right.
Well, and that it's not about comparing.
It's not about comparison, but
he's
in my
doing
mind,
what he's doing, and you don't need a reason to exit that relationship.
Yeah,
you don't need a reason other than it's not serving you. It's not something that you want to be involved in anymore. You can still love him. He's not a bad boyfriend. He is just not the boyfriend, the right one for you. Right. No. Period. It doesn't have, he's perfectly fine not attending to your needs. Because if he wasn't, he would do something different. But if that's not the person you want to, once again, tie your cart to, there's other horses out there. Like, what's up? Like, he doesn't, like, he doesn't have to, like, you were together for a couple months.
Right.
Even if you were together for a couple of years and you realize that, or decades, and you realize, you know what, who I am today is not willing to do this anymore. And again, you're not the victim. He's doing what he's doing. And either you're going to accept that or not. And it doesn't have any, love him all the way. Love him anyway, because he deserves love. And he is in a place that he doesn't want to do A, B, C or whatever. And so you just let him do whatever he's going to do. And he's perfectly within his right to do that. And you're perfectly within your right to not want to be associated with that. When I read this, in the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Then those whom the people loved led the way. So, you fall for someone and then you love them and you let them lead the way.
Mm-hmm. I did let him lead the way.
After having, my screen's shut off. I should have moved my mouse sooner. After having created the position, so you created the position of boyfriend in your life. Right.
Yeah, and, but my black or white thinking is like, oh, see, that's where you messed up. You shouldn't have done that. You should not have let that man in your life.
Well, it's not that. Like,
I'm shitting on myself, damn it.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So it's not that like the thing is the thing that went awry was you let him lead the way.
I did let him lead the way.
That's the thing that you, and you don't want to lead him, but you don't want to be led by him.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's not having created the position. It's having, the first step is allowing them to lead the way. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Then, those the people loved led the way. You let the people that you love lead the way. And then, after having created the position, that people feared their leaders. Why? Because you fear that they're going to go away. You fear that they're not going to love you. You fear that all of these things. Then they despised them. That is, you fear they're going to do something because you're being led by them. Because you allowed them to lead the way. The first step to having a leader, right? Because in the time of the great masters, there were no leader. When you can be a great master and he can be a great master, nobody's leading the way.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. The issue is that you allowed him to lead the way. Not that you created, you can have a boyfriend, just don't let him rule your life.
Right.
And if you want to take care of him, you take care of him regardless of the fact that he's going to take care of you or not. And then if it comes up where it's just like, hey, I can't take care of you and it's okay with you, then you can love him. And if he says, I can't take care of you, and you say that's not okay, you can still love him.
Yeah.
You don't have to, once again, your cart can be tied to another horse.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe this showed up for a reason, because there was some other instances where I was like, I don't know, he wanted me to meet his sponsor, but tell his sponsor that I don't drink. And I'm like, just because you're in recovery doesn't mean that I can't drink, and that was him asking me to be who I wasn't. Right. And, you should never ask anybody to be, and that goes for me too. If he's not a loving, nurturing type person,
that's right.
I shouldn't expect him to be that. And, just because I am,
that's right. And he needs to be just this way.
Like you said, to be what he's not. And maybe it's better that I know this now than, down the road, because that's not the type of person that I want. I do want somebody that's going to accept me for who I am, not expect me to be somebody that I'm not.
Right. And he may already be lying to his sponsor that you don't drink. So who knows?
Yeah, no, I think he did lie to him.
See, and that's the thing. Like that's in the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. then those whom the people loved led the way. He, he's allowing his relationship with AA or whatever. I'm assuming it's AA because of the sponsor reference, but he's allowing AA to lead the way in his life. And you allowed him to lead yours. So he's under the influence of the rooms, and you're under the influence of him. And now it's all a cluster.
Yeah. Yeah, because AA's not in charge of me,
Yeah, right.
I don't
Neither
have
is
a
he.
problem. Yeah. Neither is he. You're right.
Right.
I'm in charge of me.
Right. But if he wants to be in charge of you, and you don't want to.
Well, it's funny because I've told him, and I said it in a playful way, but I told him several times, I'm like, you're not the boss of me. Right. I very much have said that numerous times because, and when I said it playfully, but I actually meant,
Yeah.
You are not the boss of me, dude.
Yeah. And you're learning, and this is just one step at a time. I know that's AA lingo, but
damn it, Martin John, don't throw that shit at me. Easy does it. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. I don't want to fucking work it, man. Not like that. It doesn't work for me. I'm not going to keep coming back. I'm not going to keep coming back for you to shit on me. Sorry, I'm not.
As this continues, it says, having created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. And you can come back up, Julie, if you'd be just a little patient. Thank you. Having created the leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. And you let Shane lead the way. You created a leader. Your faith in Tao was diminished. Your faith in yourself was diminished.
Yep.
Your faith in your ability to love yourself was diminished.
Yep.
Having become a leader, so this is Shane now we're talking about, his trust in the people was diminished. His trust in you was diminished. His trust in the fact that he can show up and care for you without getting sick because he has faith in his relationship with the universe, but he doesn't because he doesn't trust you. And so because he doesn't trust you to not get him sick while he's caring for you, he doesn't somewhere in his life trust himself. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. That means like when you become, right, when you are a great master, there's no need for him to lead the way. You both are great masters, and both of you work day and night and say nothing about it. When the work is done, everyone around you says, amazing, we did it ourselves.
Well, I don't know. When he was working, he was saying a lot about it. He was always telling me, I had to do this, I had to do that, but I was like, I never told him all the things that I did because, it's just, it had to be done. Like, I don't need to tell you all the work that I have to do. So he didn't work day and night, say nothing about it. He was constantly telling me all the things he had to do.
Because he's a leader, not a master. And he wants to lead people. And so he's going to mislead people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's nothing to be said about, like, if you listened yesterday, it's the same thing that I went through with the friend that sent me this thing. Like she asked me, if you're having these great, relationships with energy and the earth and stuff, why aren't you talking about it? And I said, what's there to say? What?
Right.
I don't have to tout my relationship with the earth. The earth does not need, the universe does not need a PR spokesperson. Right. And I'm not going to be that. Tao does not need good PR. Like, I'm going to do what I do and just be myself in all of this. And the Tao happens to be along for the ride. You're doing great.
Okay.
I know it's just because it hurts doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah, it does hurt. But I have to love myself enough to not be led astray, like you said,
Yeah.
And, that boundary is, it was a hard line in the sand for me because, I do love myself enough that I should be treated with love, all the time, So.
Yeah, and I want to remind you, he was not treating you with love.
Well.
He doesn't, like, you just, this is not a type, the way you want to be loved.
Yeah.
That's all. He was able to love you for the way that he knows how to love. He's not loving you. Don't put that on him. This is just, you have a different understanding of how you want to be loved. That's all. And you can still receive his love. You don't want to receive it in the way that you are tied to him, because that is detrimental to your mental health. But you can still receive his love. He's not going to understand all of that, but you can open your heart and allow him to love you, because he's going to want revenge, and he's going to want to get mad, and he's going to want to speak his mind. He's going to want to do all those things, and that's okay. He's well within his right to want those things. But in the end, it's just loving him. Just you don't have, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be in a relationship. You can love him and his family. You don't have to take anything against him for what's happened, because this is how he has expressed his love. And it's just not, it's not the way that you want that love expressed. And if you want to say, well, he doesn't know how to love, I can I can agree to that. But he knows what love is to him,
right?
And it's probably transactional.
Yeah.
And it's I would not be happy if someone said, "Hey, tell someone you're not who you are, so I can get points with them."
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that was a big red flag for me when he was like, and I was really glad that we actually didn't end up, because we were supposed to go last Sunday, but it was snowing and we didn't go. And I was actually really glad, because I'm like, I cannot even believe that this guy's asking me to lie about who I am. I mean, I don't think I have a drinking problem. I mean, I drink every once in a while, but I don't think it's a problem. I mean, I don't let it control my life. And
you don't even have to go down that, because the whole thing is, the only thing AA is there for is for people who want to stop drinking. It is not for people that have problems necessarily. It's for people who have a desire to stop drinking, period.
Right.
If you do not have a desire to stop drinking, it is not, it is a group that is not for you.
Well, I mean, and it was funny because he did tell me one time, like, for him, that's all he thinks about. Like, he's constantly thinking about, I can have one beer and I can do this and I can do that. But that's not my life. I'm not constantly thinking about drinking. I'm thinking about like work and like life and I think about lots of
early
things.
Sobriety. The first 5 years of sobriety are a rough road, man.
And I feel bad. I feel bad for him. And I know that, things aren't easy for him. And I hope that this doesn't make his life harder. But I'm going to be Melissa, and I can't have Shane expect Melissa to be a certain kind of way,
No, because if you were, then once again, he's leading the way. He's telling you how to treat him. And you don't have a right to tell him how to treat you. I know there's a lot of rhetoric around about, like, you tell people how to treat. You show people that you love yourself and they will love you. Yes, that's true. Now, if somebody doesn't love you, or someone loves you in a way that you don't want to be loved, you don't let them lead the way. You don't say, yeah, here, take the reins. I don't like how you love me. No, when, it even says in the Tao, when it is necessary to wield a weapon, you do. And you did. Good for you. Because you suffered enough. And when I say suffer, I don't mean suffer. I just mean, like, you suffered him, right? You suffered him enough. You suffered his, and I don't know if this is the end of the relationship or anything. I don't know. Who knows? But
I don't know. It kind of feels like it right now, but like you said, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know either.
You're just open to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, this is you just expressing yourself and being present in yourself. And, like, this relationship, I remember when you and I started talking seriously, like, this relationship was in the beginning. And so the relationship was so important to you that you said, I want to be healthy. Well, you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but I mean, actually, I wanted to be healthy before this relationship because I started working on me, before Shane. And I think that was one of the things that actually drew him to me, is that, he saw that I was happy and that I was healthy and that I was living my best life. And I think that, was something he found, attractive.
Absolutely.
And I'm still, I'm not happy that our relationship is over if it is, because I don't want it to be, but I also don't want it to be a transactional relationship, and I don't want it to be one where, I'm not treated, well, and see, but that's going back to those expectations. So, but I do think that I deserve to be loved unconditionally, and I don't think that that's how he's loving me. Right.
And there is the whole idea of just like, look, maybe this taught you the lesson that you needed to learn, and then you move on and you learn the next lesson. This is teaching you about yourself.
Yeah.
It's helping you love yourself. And that's all. Like, he needs to love himself.
Right.
And that's something that's going to be difficult for him. And he's loving you the way he loves himself. And what did he do? He asked you to be someone else.
Yeah.
So if that's the way he's loving himself, all of this stuff may be just his stuff. You don't know anything about his stuff.
No.
You might know ideas about his stuff, but you don't know
only what he's told me. You know?
But that's, who knows? Like,
right.
he's still in the throes of, like, early addiction or early recovery, and that's a tough time. And there's no judgment against him. He's doing the best he can. But you are too, and you need more than he can offer, possibly.
Right.
And that's okay.
So I just need to continue loving myself, continue doing the next right thing. And, just because, I don't have to stop loving him, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be in a relationship with him, right, because he doesn't love me the way that I need to be loved.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you don't, again, you are not willing to let him lead the way. And that's where the problem comes in, when you let someone else lead the way.
Well,
You have faith in yourself.
It's funny because that's one of the things I think, like with Christianity. And I'm sorry, Julie, I'll drop off after this. They talk about being submissive to your husband, and I'm like, oh, I have a real hard time being submissive to anybody. Like, that word submissive bothers me. Like, what? I'm supposed to submit? Wait a second. I have a real hard time with submission.
I talk about surrender, not submission. You can surrender to the fact that he loves in this way, but you don't submit to being in the relationship if it doesn't serve you.
No, definitely not serving me at the present. And I'm going to keep working on loving Melissa because Melissa is deserving of love, Martin.
Damn right. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you came up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, dear. Julie, you've been so patient. Thank you, dear.
Hello.
How was Hull City did so well on Friday. We beat the Blades 3-0 at I forget the name of their stadium, but at in Sheffield.
Yeah, do you know we got absolutely slaughtered by
did
Bournemouth. 4-0.
Bournemouth?
5-0. 5-0.
What the hell?
I know. We were like, wow. This is...
You could dispatch of the organized teams, but the ones that are falling apart, you just you have no answer.
It's crazy, but I think that might have been a tactical win. You never know, do you? You don't know. So
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why they should lose so superbly to Bournemouth. There's just no reason at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, just sometimes it's just not your day. Like when we for the Blades for Sheffield, they on Friday it wasn't their day. We saw it and we took full advantage.
Yeah,
we put 3 past them at home. They've only before our game they only scored 8. They only allowed 8 goals on their home turf, and we put 3 past them in one game.
Wow.
So we took it's like when that side is not having their day, you take full advantage of it.
Absolutely.
And we did. So we're up on goal differential and that's good.
All good stuff.
And you guys are still in the top half of the table, so you're still doing so well. And this is your second season.
Yes.
Consecutive? Yes. Yeah. See, look at you guys. You guys are well safe from the drop. You are within touching distance of Euros.
It's all good.
Don't where you guys are at. No offense, but I'd prefer you keep the Euros at bay one more year at least.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because that's what happened to Hull. We got into the Euros, we had a good cup run, and we got relegated. Because it's just too much. It's just you stretch yourself too thin.
Yeah. What I was going to say about that is probably of all the teams, I'd like Bournemouth to beat us. I'd rather them than Man City or Liverpool or Everton.
Yeah, absolutely.
You couldn't have picked a better team. There you are, Bournemouth. Have a gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're a nice place down by the sea, and I know that Brad is hanging around your parts at the moment. It's probably his fault, Brad, being their number 1 fan, hanging around Bournemouth in the last couple of weeks.
I feel like a right trollop.
He feels like a right trollop. Hanging about with the fraternising with the opposition, Brad. I don't know what we're doing.
So how's the house? Everything? How's everything going over there?
Well, we're in the middle of a storm at the moment, and me and Brad were listening to Melissa and you, and I was actually enjoying that. There was no need for patience, because I was actually, I was learning about a few things, and as you're chatting with Melissa, my mind is ticking away, conjuring up my own story, if you like.
Yeah.
Because that's really when we're having a conversation about anything, really, it is a story. It's a story that we tell ourselves in order to find our way through the experiences that we're having. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I was listening to all, Melissa and you chatting away, and sometimes we forget that people, when we are doing this kind of learning and growing thing, we forget sometimes that's not in the capacity of other human beings right now.
Right.
It's not where they are right now. So we create a story as to, their lack of or their too much of. And I think really in a way, that's kind of, I think we need to kind of let go of the stories sometimes.
The story's so stupid. Like,
yes.
just have this experience that you're having. Don't tell a story about other people and whatnot. And it reminds me of like earlier, J.K. picked 72, and there's that line in 72 that's, don't make light of what is important to people.
Yeah.
And if that story that they're telling is important to them, let them have it.
Absolutely. It's part of their path, their journey. It's part of their growth,
Right. And let them have it. And it's okay. I don't mind that, my friend sent me that email telling me all this stuff about me and stuff. It's okay. It's okay that you believe that. That's your story. And if that helps you, that's fine. And I don't mind. And you can believe that, I was your friend for 10 years for, to try and bed you or whatever. It's like, okay, if that.
Oh, Martin, you never offered me anything like that. That's it.
and I was like, if that's how you want to, if that's the story you want to tell, I'm perfectly fine with you telling me. What's that?
I'm Brady's. But that's funny. Oh dear. But yes, yeah.
And it's perfectly all right. Because it's important to her to have the worldview that she does, or she can't be herself.
Exactly. She can't find her way through the experience without creating the framework that is the story.
Yeah.
And I think, we're all at different places in our world, in our learning, in our growing, in Tao, in fact. Yeah. And I think we have to kind of allow that. I'm not who I was 10 years ago. I'm not who I was yesterday.
Absolutely.
But I was framed by every single person that came into contact me and stuck in who they thought I was yesterday.
Right.
What kind of a gift's that? So anyway,
and it's so important to let go of the story that you think this is, those are expectations. I mean, Melissa and I were talking about the expectations she has for her boyfriend, and he didn't live up to them. And it's like, well, why should he? He's not, he's not that ideal that you made. He's who he is. Do you love him? Because if you love him, this is who he is.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like, and if you can't love him when you're together, well, then break up and love him anyway. Exactly. But don't love him in that way of like, I'm only going to love you if you're my boyfriend, because that's transactional. I'm only going to love you if you treat me in this way, because that's transactional.
Yeah.
It's just like, love him for who he is.
Yeah, allow him to be a living entity along with everything else.
Yeah. Without, of course, you have to allow yourself to be a living entity as well, meaning
correct.
You can't just, let him or her or anybody else.
Brad says he's going to go and get a pint of milk. He may be some time. I don't know what he means by that. That's so funny. But Brad's not the person now that I met all those years ago either.
No.
But I'm fully aware that Brad is who he is, and he's going to change from day to day.
Yep.
I'm blessed.
Yeah.
He's definitely not the same person now. No. He's got more grey, he said. What else have you got? A sense of foreboding, he says.
Foreboding? Oh.
When he hangs around with me, he has a sense of foreboding and angst.
That's because you push his limits, I think.
Yes. Delightfully, says Brad.
Good. Let's go ahead and pick a number.
Okay, so what number should we have, Brad?
Let's go for number 71.
71.
To
Please.
know we don't know. To be aware that one does not know is healthy for all things. Avoiding awareness of this is a current plague. By acknowledging you have been infected, you can become aware and move towards healing. The master has cured herself. She is aware she does not know. She is healthy in all aspects. So, when we're talking about the story is trying to pretend we know.
Yeah.
And that's what we started talking about, like to be aware that you don't know is healthy for all things. And it's written in this way, like the next line is avoiding awareness of this is a current plague. It's like, it's written in this way of like double negatives and stuff, it's like avoiding awareness of,
that.
I
get what it means by saying that.
Yeah.
I get what it means because we have an inherent curiosity that is fed by a need to know.
Right. And avoiding being aware that it is healthy to not know is a current plague because we want to know.
Yeah.
We want to know so badly. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what you're going to do. We want to know how you think about me. We want to know. And once you can acknowledge that you've been infected by the plague, you can move towards healing.
Yeah.
You can move towards, you can say, I want to know too much. I don't need to know this much. And I think people are waking up to that. And that's why they're starting to leave social media. That's why they're starting to quiet themselves down. That's why, people are listening to this show or whatever, because it's like, I can't just keep stuffing things into my mind and telling story about the world. I have to just stop and look. Yeah. If I stop and look, I immediately have more awe for the world around me because it's not story. It's not just chalked up to cause and effect. There's magic and it's all around us all the time.
Yeah, that is beautifully said. It's, I think to step out from it, all of that need to know that it's almost, in a way, the need to know is filling the space so I can choose my action. If I know what you're thinking and feeling, so I tell myself this story, then I'm going to be able to produce a reaction that might be in my favor.
Right. It's manipulation.
Yes.
And it's manipulation and safety. I want to be safe.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
actually, with the trust of just being, you are safe.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah. But it's that leap that people find between the fear and the trust.
Right.
Trust takes no fear. It doesn't need
That's
it.
true. And if you trust, there is like, that's the thing. Like trust, there is like you trust somebody, so you know there is the potential for something to go wrong. You know there's the potential for something to be dangerous. You know there's the potential for that, because if you didn't, it wouldn't be trust. It wouldn't be
That's
true
right.
trust.
Yes.
So you know that exists, and you do it anyway because you trust.
Yeah. And there you are in the experience of it. And
Right.
you will find your way through that. You will exist through that. You know, there will be learning in that, but you can forget that too if you like.
Yeah.
It is so good. I love this element of the unknown, because if I knew everything, what would be the point?
Right. And it's interesting because you do know everything.
Yes.
But you have to but the only way to really know it all is to be humble and not like it says here, to be aware that you do not know is healthy. So once you get to that point of not knowing, everything is able to be received. And as you dropped off, you can come back up. As you live in that space of knowing and telling the story and stuff, like that's the plague. And then when you believe that story, when you believe yourself and you believe the story that you're telling yourself, that's the illness. That's the plague that is currently plaguing the world. When you believe the stories that you've told yourself. Some people believe stories that are outright outrageous. And I have no idea how anybody can believe that. And there are people that believe it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's an amazing little space we are in. It's so little and yet so big.
Absolutely.
But it's fun, that's for sure. Can you just read that through again for me, Martin, John? Because I enjoyed it very much.
Will do. 71, to know we don't know. To be aware that one does not know is healthy for all things. Avoiding awareness of this is a current plague. By acknowledging you have been infected, you can become aware and move towards healing. The master has cured herself. She is aware that she does not know. She is healthy in all aspects. You don't know. You don't know. And there's no story that you need to tell so you can better know. It's all out there. We're talking about earlier the idea of believing. Just believe everything. You don't have to know anything about it. Just believe it. Just let it be.
It's like the thing that we say quite often, Martin, John. Far out.
Far out. Look at that. Far out. Let it be that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Great story.
All right.
Far out. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining me from Tao of the Day. I'm Martin John, and if you're interested in connecting with me, you can do so through the links in my profile. And if you're interested in the context that we talk about the Tao Te Ching, it's from my translation of the Tao, which you can find on my website. Other than that, I'll be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Central Time. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.